also you're going to have other systems in the body have major effects because it's one body. And so-called sex hormones are affecting all the other organ systems, every single organ system, because every single thing in the body has to work in synchrony, including the reproductive organs, for overall health and fertility and reproductive success and survival. So all of these rhythms are there to protect us. And another interesting thing about the hormone rhythms of the menstrual cycle is that so many people are afraid that our own natural hormones give us cancer. This drives me crazy. We did not evolve so that our own beautiful hormones give us cancer. In fact, the menstrual cycle is protective for cancer. And in fact, when you have that spike of estrogen in a real menstrual cycle, not a pseudo one, a real one, and you get that spike of estrogen, it upregulates tumor suppressor genes that reduce your risk of cancer. And the high progesterone in the second half, the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle, also as well upregulates tumor suppressor genes. So it actually induces an anti-cancer environment in the body. And then when you have the menstrual period and you bleed, you can think of it as a purging, a catharsis of not just the uterine lining, but of basically bad cells throughout the body, what we call senescent cells, or cells that have misfolded proteins. They've even had biopsies of the breast showing that crappy breast cells that may be on the pathway to becoming precancerous, that they actually commit cell suicide, we call it apoptosis, and kill themselves off. And so it's preventing breast cancer, and it's chemicals and endocrine disruptors and loss of our cycles and loss of our rhythms that actually increases the incidence of cancers. So it's so important to see the beauty of these rhythms and to embrace these rhythms and to understand that the rhythms aren't just about fertility, but they're about every organ system working in unity and synchrony to optimize health throughout every part of the body. And it's just a beautiful, amazing thing that we have all of these rhythms. And then there's even seasonal rhythms, where so like, for example, in the animal kingdom, many animals have their babies in the spring. How'd that happen? That's also for survival, because that way they're born in the spring. They can fatten up all those little babies over the summer. The mom has plenty of food. So if it's a mammal, she can nurse her little newborn. And then they'll all be in better shape when it starts getting towards winter and so on, and the food becomes scarcer. So it's not an accident that nature has these beautiful rhythms of breeding and so on. And so we are all, every life form on Earth is an earthling. I love science fiction. I love Star Wars and Star Trek. And the idea of exploring outer space is like amazing. And I love the fantasy of it. And maybe it'll be reality, because, who knows? But we have to remember, we evolved, and every life form evolved as an earthling with the beautiful rhythms of our planets. And to me, that's very romantic to think that we creatures on Earth have life rhythms that are related to the cycles of planetary bodies and the rhythms of the sun and the moon. And it's like amazing.
Yes. Wow. I mean, this is such an amazing picture that you're painting. It just gives you, to me, it gives me like this, wow, we have to go back to who we truly are. Amazing creatures, synchronized, right? Orchestrated together with nature and orchestrated within ourselves, which is an incredible image, an incredible just a thought form to have in mind as we go through the daily life. And so I would love to go deeper into fertility. And we talk so much about that because in our world, we actually don't like fertility. We shut it down.
I
right?
know.
Which is crazy, but
it is crazy,
right?
It's unfortunate. I mean, I don't want women to have babies when they're not ready. Right. But if we don't, like, when getting back to the basics, define the problem. Well, the problem would be, say, you don't want to have babies when you don't want them, but at what cost? And what are the options? So way back, I don't know, like 70 years ago. I mean, it's been a long, long time now, many, many decades, that birth control pills were first like being, invented, we'll say, and worked on. So it was a long time ago that they were first being worked on. And no one understood anything about what these hormones do in the body. What they figured out was that it will stop a woman from ovulating, and then she can't get pregnant. And then, of course, she won't have babies when she's not ready. But no one understood rhythms. No one understood the gut microbiome, which we haven't even touched on, which is a huge issue now in every aspect of health. And no one understood that there were hormone receptors for the so-called sex hormones, which I prefer to rename life hormones, because they're about every aspect of life. And no one knew what they did in the body other than that they had something to do with reproduction and having eggs come out. And so this was, what the state of the art was way back when. Well, what about now? Now we know that these hormones are incredibly important for maintaining every single organ. Like, name any organ: the brain, the heart, the blood vessels, the skin, the lungs, the intestinal tract, the liver, the musculoskeletal system, and every piece of it. And every single organ has hormone receptors to these